I do this just to prove what an ordinary, honest, straightforward cheapskate he really is. Now, under income, we have $1,078,000. $1 million from nightclubs, television, concerts, and commercials. And $78 from the return of empty soda bottles he collected in his neighborhood. Now, under charitable contributions, we have a grand total of zilch. But don't get the wrong idea. That's not because Mr. Vinny is cheap. It's just because, as his wife once explained, at his age, he can't even give it away. And I would like to conclude by telling you that Mr. Vinny is one of the most generous individuals I know. Last year, I was invited to his and Mary's 45th anniversary party. Jack married her when he was -6. Anyway, in honor of the occasion, Jack threw this lavish banquet at McDonald's. And in the middle of the festivities, a panhandler came out to Jack and said, "Excuse me, but it's been days since I've had a square meal." And with tears in his eyes, Jack looked at him and said, Gee, I'd love to help you, but all they serve here are hamburgers and they're round.
One of the most important men, you know, that didn't even hurt me. You know, one of the most important men on any president's staff is his press secretary. He's the one responsible for, this is quite a word, disseminating. That's close. He's the one responsible for decimating information. Disseminating information about the president to the news media. We are very pleased to have with us tonight President Washington's press secretary. Would you all please welcome Mr. Foster Brooks?
How well I remember the one evening, Mr. President, that you'd invited me to your home for dinner. After you and your lovely wife had a brief discussion as to the loyalty to one another down through the years. And she looked at you and said, George, I wrote a poem about that. And you looked at Martha and said, let me hear it. And she said, you say you've always been faithful, that you've never cheated once. And yet there are times when I feel that I must be an awful dunce. But you must know how I feel, my love, how I feel about you. However faithful you've been to me, I've been as faithful to you. And you, Mr. President, turned to me and said, how would you like to be married to a cheating broad like that? wish to thank you, sir. Or madam, whatever the case may be. Yes, I am the man in charge of disseminating news about George Washington. Some of the stories I disseminate are real. However, some of them are what you might call instances of artificial dissemination. First of all, you all know that story I put out about George chopping down the cherry tree. Well, it is true as far as it went. But do you know why he chopped down that cherry tree? Pure spite. He wanted to stop little Tommy Jefferson's poodle from using it. And you all know the story about how George was crossing the Delaware. He stood up in the boat to provide inspiration to his men. That was not the reason. He just wanted to get a better look because he heard that Dolly Madison was skinny dipping. There is, however, one legend about George Washington that is absolutely true. He did throw the silver dollar across the Potomac River, which goes to show that history repeats itself. First, there's a Georgie Porgy who throws a dollar, and now there's a Dickie who passes a buck.
Of the credit for the success of Laugh-In has to go to the writers. And we're very pleased to have with us tonight the man who was the head writer on Laugh-In. Would you all please welcome Mr. Foster Brooks?
As Mr. Martin just told you, I was Laugh-In's head writer. And I got that title because that's where I did most of my writing. In the head. It truly was a great experience working for Dickie. It was a great experience working with Dick and Dan. Their philosophy of comedy was that every show should have something for everybody. Adults, children, morons, and degenerates. People often wondered how we managed to maintain the high standard of material on Laugh-In. Well, you see, there were 68 writers. And every week we had a we had a little contest. And whoever wrote the funniest joke got to spend the night with Ruth Buzzy. Of course, Dick and Dan have very creative minds themselves. And Dan, in particular, especially Dan. He wrote much of his own material, lines like, "Your aunt said what?" Dan wrote that. Or, oh, really? But you know, there's one thing that used to make me mad. That's when some critics used to say that Rowan and Morton were unimportant to laugh in. Dick and Dan unimportant, cocky pocky. Do you know where laughing would be there without Dan Morton right and Dan Rowan and Dick Morton? Do you? It'd probably still be on the air.
Bob Hope has one of the most hectic schedules in the world. A typical week may find him in a dozen cities, 10 different countries. The responsibility of flying him to all of his commitments, such as the roast tonight, rests on the shoulders of one person. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the man who has been Bob Hope's personal pilot for the last 32 years, Captain Foster Brooks.
See that you parachuted to safety, as I did. I hate laying those great big gray things down in the dark. As the steward for Alitalia just told you, and boob hop hop boob boo. I am Bo. I am our host's personal pilot. So far this year, we've logged 3 million miles together. Most of them trying to find this place. Not everyone is qualified to perform a task as demanding as the one I have chosen to make my life work. It requires a man with razor-sharp reflexes, a man with complete control of his senses, a man who's able to execute split-second decisions, knowing that the slightest error in judgment could mean the demise of one of the most revered and best-loved citizens on Earth. I think I'm going to throw up.
Our guest of honor credits many people with helping him become a star, but none more than the man you're about to meet. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Telly Savalas' personal barber, Mr. Foster Brooks.
Oh, hi, Shaggy. I happen to be the personal barber for Telly Saliva. Day or night, I am always on call.